1, 2, 3, action.
Camping and hiking products are a scam. If you start looking into camping and hiking gear, you'd think you're preparing for space travel. But camping and hiking for the average person should not be expensive. I'm going to show you how it's done. Go into any outdoor store, you'll find cutlery sets going for $60 and camping water bottles going for $75. If you go to your local department store, you can find items that are just as good for a fraction of the price. So have a look at some of these camping branded items that I found at my local camping store and what I use for a cheap alternative. A $130 pot, which could easily be replaced by a pot you have at home or one from a secondhand store. This $60 cutlery set could be replaced by plastic cutlery you get for free from any fast food restaurant. Instead of using overpriced dry bags, try using heavy-duty garbage bags. Instead of a $75 water bottle, try the 99-cent liter bottles from the grocery store. Oh, but the expensive one is reusable. It's better for the environment. Well, guess what? The cheap one's also reusable. This $12 plastic camping plate has a $1 alternative at the local department store. And same with a $34 insulated mug. It also has a $3 alternative at the local department store. Now check out this $36 microfiber pocket camping towel. You can buy a 20-pack for $10 in the automotive section of your local hardware store. You might think that a camping stove would be an expensive necessity. However, a simple hiking stove can go for around $12 to $30. There are very few camping products that are worth spending a lot of money on. And the ones that are worth getting good quality, you can usually find secondhand on Facebook Marketplace or secondhand stores. Now for food, similar rules apply. Dehydrated meals are commonly used because of their convenience, but in my opinion, they're a waste of money. They typically don't taste great, they usually have questionable ingredients, they're overpriced, and they aren't that filling. Personally, if I'm going for convenience, I'd much rather go with no-cook options like dried fruit, nuts, and beef jerky. Now beef jerky can be expensive as well, so you can always make your own or go for cheaper protein options like canned tuna or chicken, fried pork rinds, or protein powder. Some of my most common camping meals are extremely cheap. I like to go with oats and protein powder for breakfast, dried fruit and nuts throughout the day, and rice and biltong for dinner. I like the biltong from a company called Barbell Foods. This stuff usually comes out to around $10 a meal, which is still about half price of a typical dehydrated meal, and has 38 grams of protein from high quality grass-fed beef. Protein is the most expensive part of every meal, but it's also the most important, especially if you're trying to hike long distances for multiple days. Now sometimes I'll just add this on top of my rice, but if I want to get fancy, I'll cook it with my rice and let it rehydrate. Then I can add some sauce and vegetables and make a camping stir fry. Now that you have the gear and food sorted, your other major cost is going to be your campsite fee or your national park pass. Now depending on where you live, laws and regulations may vary. I'm from Canada where there's tons of what is known as Crown land, which is free for public use. But I currently live in Australia, where wild camping is discouraged and free campsites are really hard to find. I like to use a website called HipCamp, which is like Airbnb for campsites. It's typically farmers who have large plots of land, and they'll essentially let you wild camp on their property for a nightly fee. On this website, you can find everything from a $5 wild camp to a $300 luxury glamping experience. Websites like this one are a great way to save a little bit of money and find campsites that are a little bit less traveled. Now, the good thing about hiking is that trail huts are typically free to camp at. However, to access these trails, you may need to drive into a national park to find the trailhead. That's why I purchased a yearly park pass, and if you plan to visit national parks a few times a year, I suggest you do the same. In my state of Western Australia, the park fee is typically $15 a day per vehicle. The park pass costs $120 a year, which gives you unlimited access to all the parks, and allows you to register 2 license plates. You could even split this cost with a friend. Now the last major cost of camping is time. Most people can find a couple hours on the weekend to go out for a hike, but to go for an overnight adventure, it's a little bit more difficult to schedule in, especially when you consider planning, packing, buying supplies, and the whole cleanup process after. In the beginning, this whole process can be extremely time consuming, but the more you do it, the better you get. You will develop your own systems for planning, packing, and cleanup after that make everything a lot easier and quicker. This is a trial and error process, but I find it really enjoyable to get a lot more efficient with my processes and make the whole experience a lot more manageable. Recently, my wife and I did a last-minute camping adventure where we planned, packed, and got supplies all in under 45 minutes. We then hiked around 2 hours out to one of our favorite spots, camped the night, and hiked out in the morning. We ended up starting the process at 4 p.m. and we were back home by 7 a.m. the next day. With a little bit of pre-planning, this is something that we could probably manage on a day where we're both working, although it might make the process a little bit less enjoyable. But in reality, camping and hiking is one of our main hobbies, and it's something we make time for because we enjoy it. In the beginning, camping and hiking is something that would wear us down and leave us exhausted when we got home. But as we got better and more efficient, we sometimes now get a better sleep out in the bush than we do at home, as long as the weather cooperates. So although high quality and expensive camping gear will make your experience easier and more enjoyable, it's not necessary. You can find cheap alternatives for most things you'll need while camping if you can get creative. I hope this video saved you some money and got you thinking about your next camping adventure. Let us know about some of your cheap camping alternatives and check out our information playlist for more helpful tips. And as always, tune in next time for another adventure.